My 18-year-old daughter had just graduated at the top of her class. When my parents offered to host a graduation party for their granddaughter, I thought it was a kind gesture. But when we showed up, the celebration was actually for my niece, who had just completed 8th grade. The cake read, "For our only granddaughter." I didn't cause a scene right then. Instead, I responded 3 days later with a letter. That's when they started screaming. Let me walk you through the last time I placed any trust in my parents, especially when it came to something that mattered. Actually, forget that. This was the last time I trusted them at all. Because this wasn't just your typical family oversight. This wasn't forgetting a birthday or mixing up names again or accidentally calling my daughter by the dog's name for the 10th time in a row. No, this cut deeper. This was betrayal frosted with buttercream, dished out beside shrimp skewers and a platter of lies. It all began innocently enough. One Tuesday afternoon, my mom called. Her tone was light and casual, the same one she always uses when she's about to casually wreck my day, but wants me to think she's doing something sweet. We were thinking of throwing a graduation party, she said, for our granddaughter. Just like that. Our granddaughter. I was standing in the parking lot loading groceries into the car and almost dropped an entire bag of rice. Oh, I asked. Just something small with family, she said. We'd love to host. That was all, I replied. Thank you. And she sounded genuine. The kind of sincere that makes your shoulders ease, that tricks your heart into hoping that maybe, just maybe, things would be different this time. I didn't even pause to wonder who she meant. Obviously, my daughter Mia had just graduated from high school, valedictorian, no less. After 4 grueling years filled with sleepless nights, dragging group members through projects they didn't care about, and pushing through emotional burdens no teenager should have to carry, she had done it. She had made it. Maybe now, just maybe my parents were finally seeing her the way I always had. That night, I told Mia about the party. Her eyes lit up. Grandma and Grandpa, she asked. I nodded. She blinked. Really? I nodded again. She didn't say anything more, but I saw it. That flicker of hope, like after years of being helpful, being kind, being good. Someone had finally seen her. If I had the power to turn back time, I'd tell both of us not to get our hopes up. The day of the party was sweltering. Not your average summer heat, but the kind of sticky back of your knees heavy air that drains you before noon. My husband? Marcus couldn't locate his nice shoes. Mia kept swapping out earrings. I was already sweating before we got into the car. As we got closer to my parents' neighborhood, the silence in the car grew thicker. Let's remember, I said. This is a kind gesture. Let's just smile and say thank you. I said it with a straight face like a complete idiot. We turned onto their street and I almost drove right past their house. At first glance, it didn't look like a graduation party. It looked like a small-scale wedding. A big white canopy tent covered the lawn. Dozens of folding chairs had been set out. Streamers fluttered. Gold tablecloths glistened in the sun. Even those little customized yard signs had been planted in the grass. I felt my throat tighten. They had really gone all out. Marcus said low. Mia leaned forward. Wow. We parked and got out the second we stepped onto the lawn. We were in the middle of a crowd. Hugs, air kisses, plastic cups of lemonade shoved into our hands, people I hadn't seen since childhood, family, friends, cousins, my uncle's ex-wife. How did she get invited then? I saw the girl front and center, curls done, sash across her chest, glittery dress practically glowing. And I swear I still didn't see it. I just thought she was excited for Mia. I smiled at her. Then I saw the cake. 3 tiers, pastel pink frosting, gold piping, a little edible, graduation cap on top, and written across the front in careful cursive. Congratulations to our only granddaughter, class of 2025. I froze. I blinked, rereading it. That couldn't be right. There are 2 granddaughters, Mia and Kay. Then I saw the banner. The colors, the logo from the middle school, and the framed photo next to the cake. Kay holding a rolled-up certificate, wearing a sparkly white dress and a tiara like she just won a pageant. It hit me all at once. This wasn't a party for Mia. It never was behind me. Mia was silent, not frozen, not panicking, just still. I looked at Marcus. He looked back at me. No one spoke. We stepped into the party like ghosts. No one noticed anything. Not yet. People smiled, said things like, "You must be so proud." And what a beautiful day. A few guests gave Mia confused looks when they realized she wasn't wearing the sash. A few gave me those quiet, polite smiles people use when they're not sure if they've made a mistake or you have. And then the gift table, one by one. Guests handed over wrapped boxes and cards. There were bows, envelopes, handmade signs, a personalized tumbler. We brought nothing. Why would we? We thought this was for Mia. A woman I barely knew gave me a strange look. Another whispered something and glanced at Mia. One cousin actually tilted her head and mouthed, "Where's the gift?" I wanted to sink into the lawn. Then Heather stood up, glass of champagne in hand. "Let's all take a moment to celebrate our girl. He's worked so hard. We couldn't be more proud." Middle school is a huge milestone, and she's handled it with grace, beauty, and intelligence. Cheers, laughter, applause. Mia just stood there, not crying, not moving, just watching. I waited until the toast ended, until people sat down, until the crowd thinned around the cake table. Then I found my mother near the cooler scooping ice. "The cake says only granddaughter," I said. He smiled, distracted. "Oh, probably a mistake at the bakery." I didn't move. He shrugged. "Besides, Mia is older. She's not a child anymore." This was more of a milestone. I stared at her. He went back to the cups. Then my dad walked up holding a paper plate. "Wait, did Mia graduate too?" I said nothing. He blinked. "From what?" I blinked back. "High school." He laughed. "Oh, right. That's right." I looked at my mother. She didn't say anything. She just smiled and turned back toward the buffet table. We left. No one stopped us. No one followed. No one even noticed, which somehow made it worse. Mia got into the back seat and looked out the window. I started the car. Marcus sat in silence, and as we pulled out of the driveway, I said, "We're not doing this again." What we did next? 3 days later, they got a letter, and this time they were the ones left speechless. There are things I didn't notice when I was a kid, and there are things I did notice but talked myself out of. That's what growing up in a family like mine teaches you, how to gaslight yourself before anyone else gets the chance. It wasn't until the cake. The cake that I looked back and realized, oh, this wasn't just an oversight. This wasn't a bakery. Typo. This was the punchline to a joke they've been telling behind our backs for years. And the joke was us. I've always been described as easy. Not in the scandalous way, in the manageable child kind of way. I didn't cry at bedtime. I organized my own lunchbox. I said, "Thank you too often and wanted too little," which meant my parents treated me like furniture. They liked having around but didn't need to maintain. My older brother was the thinker. My younger sister, Heather, was the little sparkle. I was just there. Middle child, middle of the road, middle of the conversation, if I was lucky. I didn't realize it was odd that my mom would tell stories at dinner about my siblings spelling B wins or school plays while I was sitting right there having apparently attended none of my own life. It's not that they hated me. It's worse than that. They didn't notice me. And you can survive that. But it leaves a bruise you don't see until later. The house they live in now, the scene of the cake, used to belong to my grandmother. When she died, she left it to my mom, my brother, and me. I was 4. Heather wasn't born yet. The first time, my mom mentioned my name being on the deed. I laughed. "You're joking, right?" He waved it off. "You're technically a co-owner. Just ignore that. It's not a real thing, right? Just a legal share in a house they've lived in for decades." Silly of me. But I did what I always did. Smoothed it over, because that's what I was trained to do when I had Mia. I expected something soft to unlock in them. I thought my mom would lean in and say, "You were like this once." Or that my dad would cry holding her. They didn't either. They said she was cute. They brought a bib. Then they asked how many hours of maternity leave I had left. That should have been the giveaway, but you don't want to see it when it's your kid. You want to believe they'll come around. They didn't. Mia didn't have doting grandparents. She had people who sent birthday cards with $20 in them and forgot which grade she was in. No sleepovers, no photo frames on the mantle, just the occasional, polite, "Tell us how school's going, sweetheart." While scrolling through their phones, it wasn't mean it was nothing. And sometimes nothing hurts more than cruelty. At least cruelty notices you. Meanwhile, when Heather had Kay 4 years later, there were balloons, hand-knitted sweaters, and a silver rattle engraved with her initials. Who even gets something like that? My dad suddenly mastered the photo printer. My mom joined a Facebook group for hip modern nanas. All at once, they had time. They had strong opinions. They had a new role. Grandparents with a capital G. For Mia, though, they were just older relatives who happened to share a table with us twice a month. We never missed a dinner. We smiled. We brought dessert or a side dish. We listened to long stories about Kaya's piano performances and recent Tooth Fairy adventures. Mia even complimented her drawings, which were usually just a few purple crayon lines and a triangle she insisted was a dolphin. I think Mia understood what was going on, but she kept trying truly and earnestly. She offered to help clean up, set the table, and laugh politely at Grandpa's terrible jokes. She taught them how to use the TV remote, how to write an email, and how to save a contact in their phone. I watched her type gently, as if hoping that being kind and useful might finally mean she was worthy, not of gifts or money, but of love. Her other grandparents, my husband's parents, live in Europe. She might get to see them once a year, if that. So this wasn't just about attending Sunday dinners. For Mia, it was about having grandparents at all. She longed for the things other kids had, relatives who shared embarrassing baby stories, pinched her cheeks, and mailed strange souvenirs from tourist traps in Florida. She wanted to be the kind of granddaughter people remembered fondly. And she was, but it didn't matter. Not in the way that counted. Sure, they liked her. They appreciated her. Like how you'd appreciate a neighbor who brings your mail in during a rainstorm. Thoughtful, helpful, and easy to forget. During senior year, she poured everything into her efforts. Graduated at the top of her class, won debate tournaments, racked up volunteer hours. She really did it all, and I could see it building inside her. This quiet, swelling hope that maybe success would finally shift the balance. She never said it aloud. She didn't have to. She'd casually drop things like, "I think Grandpa likes history, right? I aced that project." Or, "Do you think Grandma saw the photo you posted?" She wasn't asking for a big celebration, just a simple acknowledgement, a sign that she mattered for more than just showing up and helping out. I told them about her graduation weeks ahead of time, sent the details not once but twice. No RSVP. Then 3 days before the ceremony, my mom texted, "Sorry, not feeling 100%. Might sit this one out." Sit it out like it was a backyard barbecue. Like it wasn't the conclusion of 18 years of effort and perseverance. When I broke the news to Mia, she didn't say a word. She just tied her shoes and asked if her speech sounded all right. That was the hardest part. Not the silence, but how ordinary it felt. So, when my parents later called to say they wanted to throw a graduation party for our granddaughter, I didn't hesitate. I didn't question it. I didn't analyze. Of course, I assumed they meant Mia. Who else could they be talking about? They said, "Our granddaughter." And for once, I allowed myself to believe they were including us. I told Mia, her face lit up. Not an obvious grin, just a quiet, soft smile. But I saw it. That flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, they were finally trying. She didn't ask anything. She just nodded and said, "Okay." He picked out a dress. She even offered to bring one, of her favorite teachers to say a few words. She was nervous and excited and scared in that hopeful way that only teenagers are when they still think things can be different. And honestly, so did I. We were wrong. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to send a letter like that. Not a handwritten note, not a Christmas card with best wishes scribbled in fake gold ink. I mean, a letter. Letter one that makes people stop breathing for a second when they open it. One you don't respond to with words. You respond with rage. I didn't even write it myself. Marcus did. He drafted it like it was nothing. Calm, polite, lethal, a surgeon's cut. I signed it without blinking because I wasn't doing this for me. I was doing it for my daughter. It didn't feel triumphant. Not at first, just strange, quiet, almost clinical. We printed 2 copies. One for our records, one to drop off. I didn't mail it. I delivered it by hand, folded once tucked into a plain white envelope. No return address, no note, just the words. I intend to sell my 1/3 share of the property located at Plain non-negotiable. They could theoretically buy me out, get a loan scraped together, their pension checks, and do whatever it is people do when they're faced with the consequences of a decades-long power imbalance. But I knew they wouldn't. And I knew that wasn't the point. The point was they don't get to own me anymore, Heather called. First, I picked up because I wanted to hear how it would start. She opened it in front of Kay, she said. Like, that was the greatest crime committed all year. I didn't answer. Mom screamed Laura like full volume. She nearly dropped her tea. Should I apologize to the tea? Heather didn't laugh. She was sobbing. I thought someone died at first. Did she read it out loud? I asked. Yes, she said. You're trying to sell the house. Our house, correction, I said. A third of the house. She was shaking. She should hydrate. Heather made a strangled noise like she was deciding whether to hang up or scream. You're destroying her, she said finally. No, I replied. She did that to herself. I'm just making it official. 3 hours later, my mom called. Caller ID, no message, just persistence. I picked up on the third ring. I'm going to pretend. I misread that letter, she said calmly. And you're going to tell me it was a mistake? I let the silence stretch, then I said it wasn't. He sucked in a breath like the letter was one thing, but this confirmation was somehow worse. You're really going to sell your share of the house? Yes, our home. No, I said. My share of Grandma's home. You don't even live there. You don't pay the taxes on it alone either. My mom was quiet for a moment. Then this is vindictive. No, I said, this is overdue. You're doing this because of that stupid party. I'm doing this because my daughter's future shouldn't be tied to a house full of framed photos of someone else's kid. She laughed sharp and bitter. Oh, so it's about Mia now. Everything I do is about Mia. You're going to make us homeless. No, you can buy me out. You can take a mortgage, sell your car. Call Heather. You've got options. She didn't respond to that. She just said, You want to be careful? You don't want to burn every bridge? I smiled. Pretty sure you took care of that with a cake and a banner. And then I hung up. That evening, Marcus found me sitting at the kitchen table staring at a scratch in the wood I'd never noticed before. He didn't ask questions, just handed me tea. Do you feel guilty? He asked finally. No, I said. I feel like I should, but I don't. He nodded. We sat like that for a while. Then I said, I've always made excuses for them. I know, even after the party. I know. I think I thought they'd come around eventually. And he looked at me over the rim of his mug. You don't believe that anymore? I shook my head. They knew she got in. They knew we were scrambling to figure out how to pay for it. And they spent all that time celebrating someone else's kid's middle school certificate like it was a PhD. Marcus didn't answer. He didn't need to. The next few days were quiet in that way. That feels more like a loaded gun than peace. I stopped answering their calls, stopped running errands, no more filling prescriptions, no more checking their voicemail, no more can you help me log in texts. Mia stopped too. She didn't say anything dramatic. She just opted out. No more text support. No more K-birthday videos. No more late night. Can you look at this email real quick requests? She just quietly stepped back. I asked her once how she felt. She said like I deleted a virus I didn't know was running. Then for days later, Heather tried again. You don't even know what you've done to Mom, she said. She's walking around the house like a ghost. I thought she was already doing that. She keeps rereading the letter like it's a death notice. Maybe it is for the version of herself that thought she'd get away with it forever. She's not eating. She's not listening either. Heather sighed. It's not too late to fix this. It is just... Call her no. Just talk to her. Laura, I did. I sent a letter and then I hung up again that night. Mia came into the kitchen as I was drying dishes. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed. You ever feel like the bad guy? She asked. I paused. Yeah, all the time. Why? She smiled faintly. Just making sure I wasn't the only one. I smiled back. Then she said, "Do you think they'll ever get it?" "No," I said. "But that's not the point." "What is?" "We don't owe them understanding, just boundaries." She nodded once and we left it at that. I thought the cake was the low point. You know the one. Congratulations to our only granddaughter in swirly pink frosting, piped with such deliberate cruelty. I'm surprised the bakery didn't file a warning report, but apparently I was wrong. Apparently, there are worse things than being erased from your own daughter's graduation party. Like finding out the same people who raised you tried to take away her entire future. It started 2 weeks after the letter. The letter Marcus helped me write, the one that said in lawyer-perfect language, "I'm selling my share of the house. No threats, no yelling, just facts." 2 weeks later, Mia walked in from dance class with that face. The one that looks normal. If you don't know her, shoulders straight, voice calm, but I know better. He told me what happened. "They were waiting for me," she said on the sidewalk. I blinked. "Your grandparents?" She nodded. Apparently they showed up outside her dance studio like two friendly ghosts, waved her over, acted like they just happened to be out on a walk. They hadn't shown that much interest in her hobbies in 18 years, but sure, now they're coordinating with her class schedule. He said they were nice at first, too. Nice like stage actors doing dinner theater. Then came the script. "You're really going to let your mom do this to us? She's making us homeless." Sweetie talked to her. You're the only one she listens to. I asked how she responded. Mia shrugged. I told them, no. No drama, no screaming, just no. That's when my mother looked her dead in the eye and said, "Fine, but choices have consequences." Mia turned and walked away. I didn't. I stood in the kitchen for a while after she left, staring out the window like maybe the trees could tell me how not to scream into the wind. Because here's the thing. I expected guilt trips. I expected manipulation. But dragging Mia into it, ambushing her near a dance class, making her the one who has to tell me to back off, that was new. That was deliberate. And I hadn't even seen the worst of it yet. Another 2 weeks passed. We were finally breathing again, talking about dorm, furniture, meal plans, the good kind of stress. And then the letter arrived. Big envelope university logo. Mia thought it was her housing packet. She opened it at the kitchen counter while I was rinsing a bowl. I heard her breath catch. Then she handed it to me. It wasn't housing. It was a notice from the admissions office. Her enrollment was under review. An anonymous report had been submitted alleging omissions, inconsistencies, undisclosed legal entanglements. The phrasing was so sterile it made me cold, like reading the autopsy of something that hadn't died yet. Mia didn't speak. Marcus took the letter, read it once, twice, and then looked at me like someone had just kicked the front door open and lit a match. I sat down hard. It took me a full minute to process what I was seeing. Not because I didn't understand it, because I did. This wasn't petty. This wasn't family politics. This was an attack. And not on me, on her. I got in the car, didn't even tell Marcus. Just grabbed my coat and keys and drove straight across town. I wasn't afraid of what I'd say. I was afraid of what I wouldn't. My father opened the door like he'd been watching through the blinds. My mother appeared behind him. Not surprised, just smug. I didn't say hello. Did you report Mia to the university? No blinking. No confusion. No. What are you talking about? Just stillness. And then my mother said, You think you can do what you did and not face consequences? I stepped inside. You tried to destroy her life. She shouldn't be there. My mother said that school wasn't meant for her. She got in on her own. You dragged your drama into it. What did you expect? I expected you to be angry. I did not expect you to sabotage a child's future just to get even. She's not a child. She's part of this. I stared at her and something inside me snapped. Not in rage, not in tears, just a clean break, like bone pulled from bone. You're not. Just bad grandparents, I said quietly. You're dangerous people. And then I turned around and walked out. They didn't see me. Hit record before I rang the doorbell. That night, I sent 3 things to the family group chat. No greeting, no explanation, just a photo of the cake, a screenshot of the university acceptance letter, and an audio clip of my mother saying school wasn't for her. Then I shut off my phone and started making dinner. The backlash came fast. Within an hour, the chat lit up like a Christmas tree set ablaze. Cousins I hadn't heard from in forever were chiming in with, Wait, what? And is this legit? One aunt messaged me directly. I had no idea. I'm so sorry. 3 people quietly left the group without saying a word. Eventually, Heather jumped in. This is being blown way out of proportion. Nobody responded. Not even Kay. Mia read every message, calm, methodical, like she was gathering material for something far bigger than payback. When she reached the last post, she looked over and said, I don't think I want to see them ever again. I gave a small nod. She turned and went back to her room like she'd just finished cleaning up someone else's disaster. And in a way, she had. A few days later, my phone rang. It was my brother. We hadn't spoken since the party. They called me, he said. I didn't say anything. They want help buying you out. Said they're desperate. Still, I remained silent. Then he added, I told them no. Actually, I want to sell my third too. Something loosened in my chest. For Mia, he said. They crossed a line. That evening, Mia and I sat on the back porch. The sun had dipped just enough to soften the sky. She stirred her tea with a bent spoon, one she'd warped months ago and never replaced. Then she asked, If they said sorry, would you forgive them? I really took a moment to think it through. Honestly, no, I said. Not for this. She nodded. Once. Good. Fast forward a year. The house sold not instantly but smoothly. Solid price. My 1/3 share covered everything Mia needed. Tuition, housing, those surprise bills that always show up and still left more than I anticipated. We haven't heard a word from my parents since. No phone calls, no apologies, no random notes slipped into the mailbox. As far as I know, my brother hasn't heard from them either. He signed his share away and vanished. The quietest exit I've ever seen him make. Heather's still hovering on the edges, but that bright loyalty she once had is gone. From what I heard, she finally confronted them a few months back. Told them she couldn't keep defending what they tried to do to Mia. Said she needed space. Apparently, they gave it to her. My parents used their portion of the money to buy a house, if you can even call it that. Tiny, falling apart, far from anything. The streets rough, the neighbors worse. They couldn't qualify for a loan, so they paid in full cash for leaks, rot, and midnight sirens. But it's theirs now. every cracked tile and creaky floorboard of it. Mia, she's grounded, focused, razor sharp in all the right ways. And they'll never get to claim a shred of credit for any of it. But tell me this. Did I go too far, or not nearly far enough?